everyone, it's me, Nita Rose, and this is my review video of Helluva Boss Season 2. And I would like to let you know that these are my own opinions on the matter, and as a fair warning, I will be biased towards a certain topic. You are free to share your opinions on certain characters, episodes, or topics in the comments below. And if you like, you can subscribe to this channel, hit that like button and notification button to ring the bell. Now let us get started. Stolas and Blitza being childhood friends doesn't make any sense. If Blitz was Stolas' childhood crush, then he would have gave Blitz more respect as an adult instead of treating him as a sex object. I mean, I understand why the writers went with this route because they want the two duos to have some connection, and the reason why Blitz knows about the grimoire and how it works. Yeah, it's cute seeing us kids together, but it doesn't do much of impact on the main story. It just seems fanfiction. But if they were going with this plot, they could have made the entire episode about just their childhood. Maybe have Stolas sneak out to see Blitz once in a while and vice versa, or have them growing up together for some time, instead of the horny trash scene that I thought was funny, but now makes me feel uneasy. But instead, we see Stolas being trashed on by his wife at the not divorce party. You know, Stolas didn't have to be at that party. It's not traditional or anything, it's just a simple party that's run by Stella. He could have been reading a book in a garden, or attending to his plants, or spending time with his daughter. If I was at this party, I would have left the moment someone spoke harsh words about me. This Stolas is completely different than season 1. So what this episode is telling me that the whole reason why Stolas is being horny towards Blitz was because Blitz gave him a one-night stand after stealing from him. I'm sorry, but what? Blitz never planned on sleeping with the guy, but he did it out of pittiness. But Stolas was the one that started the sexual intercourses by bringing Blitz into his bedroom, thinking that the imp was going to fuck him. It's only the first episode of the season and I'm already confused. However, I will give this episode credit for giving Stolas some development. Stolas realized that Blitz is not happy with him, so he strategized a plan on giving him something that helped his business without the grimoire, and sings a song about being in a cage. It's a nice song and I love Bryce Pimmon's voice, but this song seems a bit out of tune, and after reading the lyrics, I noticed that the song is reflecting on the character's situation. I gotta be honest, I did not like Stolas singing because I thought all of his songs were about himself. But that's not entirely true. It is mostly about his feelings towards Blitz, and there is one time that he sang about his daughter. I took the time to listen to all the songs, and I will admit, these are good songs and I like some of them. But there is one song that I can't stand, and I will get to that one when the episode comes. 3 out of 10, not a good start for the season, but it does have some good build up to character development.
But all I can do is hold you tight and pray you'll
Okay, I gotta be honest, I don't know what to say about this episode. There is so much going on with 3 different subplots shoved into one. You got Stolas forgetting a promise to Octavia which caused her to run away. We have Luna being angry with Blitz for telling her how to do her job better, which makes no sense because all he told her to do was to be nicer to people, especially towards clients, which causes Luna to attack him, which again, makes no sense. At least Octavia has a good reason to be angry with her father, but with Luna? I just don't see the problem. They all ended up in LA after Via stole the book from Blitz and uses it to teleport herself away to see the stars as she hoped. They all go search for her, but they got separated, leaving Luna the only one looking for Octavia. Millie and Moxie got into a street gig, while Stolas and Blitz was dragged into a TV show. There's also fast pacing here, like the show didn't give us enough time to read what was on the sign before the scene happens. This episode should have been just about Luna and Octavia. I mean, the thumbnail clearly states that these two will have a moment together, and it seems like they had it set up that way. Just having both daughters struggling with their daddy issues, they both stormed off and eventually run into each other, talking about their problems, and maybe bond together through conversation would have been just fine. It didn't need all these subplots with the M&Ms and Blitz being forced on camera. I mean, yeah, Blitz and Stolas still could be in this episode with the search of their daughters. This would have been a good episode if it just focuses on the daughters bonding together and rekindle with their fathers. 2 out of 10. Let's move on.
I've won it all. They've screamed my name. They bought the dog.
Wow, we get Moxie's backstory with a shitty father who is the leader of a mob family who forced Moxie into marrying his ex to further the family financial funds, and Millie had to come save him. Although I do like the scene with Millie killing all those mob guys with the hit country music playing in the background. Now that was fun to watch. There's also Chaz, who is annoying and wish he would die already. Oh wait, he did die by the end of the episode. Yeah, the only episode that this character is in, and he was killed off by Crimson. It is also amazing that an imp can run a mob empire when imps are nothing more than low-class servants. Blitz had to spend a lot of money, time, and probably slept with some people to get his business up and running. How did Crimson manage to run an entire mob with people that are higher class than him as servants? If I had to speculate, I say Crimson has secrets of his own and may have connections as well. We know he's a cruel man, and we see what he's capable of as a manipulator. He forced his own son into killing his mother at a young age, and if Moxie hadn't met Blitz, he could have suffered a cruel fate. I will say this episode is a 3 out of 10. Okay, this episode is not that bad. We have Stella hiring Stryker to kill Stolas and get kidnapped while Blitz needs to take Luna to the vet for a very important shot until he heard from Stolas about his recent kidnapping and wants Blitz to come rescue him, but Blitz can't do that at the moment. But wait, doesn't Stolas have bodyguards? You think for a royal you would have at least 1 or 2 or 3 by your side? I mean, where are the 2 guard dogs? I'm sure they would have been more helpful. And Stryker straight up attacked Stolas in a public area and nobody said anything? I will say because they're in hell, so kidnapping people is the norm. But when it comes to a royal being attacked, you would think people would be on high alert and do something about it. But I guess people just don't care. I will say that Blitz could have been the one to go after Stolas and have Millie and Moxie take Luna to the vet to get her important medical shot, but it'll always be a parent's duty to stay with their child while they're getting that shot, especially if they're afraid of needles. This makes Blitzo a better parent to Luna than Stolas to Octavia. Not to mention it took Blitz 5 years to get this appointment. So yeah, if Blitz did decide to save Stolas and schedule another appointment, which probably would take him another 5 years or even longer. All the hospitals are in the sloth ring. In terms of sloth means laziness. I mean, the staff working at the front desk can't even read or write and shows lack of work effort. It's no wonder it took Blitz 5 years to make that appointment. Granted, at least the doctor isn't slacking off as he's trying to give Luna the shot with Blitz's help while trying not to get killed. Now, it doesn't tell us exactly what that shot is, but we do know that it's important to know that Luna needs it. It could be similar to like a Ravy shot or something. Stryker as a character was downplayed in this episode. They had him build up as a good villain in season 1, but here, he's not even that interesting. Also, Stella was just plain dumb. She hired an assassin to kill her husband without knowing the consequences. Yeah, I heard a lot about the women in the show getting the short end of the stick. And after rewatching it, I noticed it too. Stella would have been a great villain if the writers put in the effort into her character. Overall, this episode wasn't that bad, and I like the fact that Blitz is starting to show his emotion of Stolas and might even have regrets. And Stolas is starting to notice the small details about his relationship with Blitz. 5 out of 10, still an okay episode. Okay, honestly, at first, I didn't think this episode was worth reviewing, but there are some things I would like to say. First off, Blitz is acting more impulsive in this episode, especially with his sister Barbie Wire. He spends all that time looking for her, and once he finds her, what does he do? He starts an argument with her instead of asking her if she was okay, or even apologize for making her life a living hell. Yeah, he said he wants to help her, but what can he do for her when all he does is make it worse? Seriously, I think Blitz needs to leave Barbie alone and let her come to him on her own terms. It's not entirely clear as to the reason why Blitz wants to suddenly find her after all this time. He's acting more selfish, and Barbie working as a drug dealer is not the best thing for her because of her addiction. But I must keep in mind that Blitzo could be the reason why Barbie is in that situation. But selling drugs in the black market could be the only thing she can afford to do, and maybe if her brother wasn't an asshole that caused her suffering, she would have worked for him in IMP. But Barbie made it clear that she never wants to see him again, and Blitz is starting to realize that. This might be the first and last time we see Barbie Wire, at least least until season 3 comes out. This could have just been Blitz trying to rekindle with his sister and not fuck things up with her. But instead we get the happy campers, Millie being a popular star, and Moxie being a selfish crybaby because he wants the attention. My first concern was that this episode was nothing more than a filler with lazy writing, but after re-watching it, I was thinking, you know what? This episode still sucks, but it's not as bad as I originally thought after the first time watching it. I mean, this is the first time Millie gets to shine in the spotlight, and the narration confirms that with her having to state the fact that she never had any commitments about herself. Moxie being jealous of her is so out of character. Why does he suddenly want attention from these campers when he could just do the job and get it over with? But he wastes his time trying to interact with the humans. It's no wonder Blitz didn't give him a lead on a mission. I do like Moxie, but this episode just ruined his character in my opinion. 4 out of 10.
Just push you astray. I never meant for this, I swear.
Okay, I always thought this was the best episode of this season, and yeah, it still kinda is. But I do need a downgrade on the rating system just a little bit because of its pacing and quick storytelling. Everything was happening so fast that it was hard to believe. I still like this episode because it's one of the few episodes where the main character admits his wrongdoings and apologizes for his mistakes. Even if the fire was an accident, Blitz was still responsible for it. That not only physically damaged Fizz, but mentally and emotionally. And also the fire killed his mother and ruined the family business at the circus. Which is the whole reason why his family, such as his sister, abandoned him. And now we know that Fizz was one of the victims of Blitz's mistake. But unlike Barbie, Fizz was willing to forgive Blitz after a simple conversation. Honestly, I think the writers should have given Fizz a little bit more time with his decision to forgive his former best friend, because as he mentioned, it is hard to forgive someone who put you through that and felt betrayed by that person. Fizz had a grudge against Blitz for the past 15 years because of what happened, but once he learned the truth and sees Blitz's reaction, he starts to feel sympathy for him. But still, Fizz went through challenges and heartaches and admits his life was ruined, but he's not broken. In fact, he became successful over the years and met the love of his life. I believe that's the reason why Fizz forgave Blitz that easily, but it's also the fact that Blitz risked his life to protect him from his kidnappers and he both managed to escape. Overall, this is still a good episode, even with the subplots of Stolas asking Ozzy for an Asmodeus crystal to give to Blitz for his business. I admit, I do like seeing Stolas help Blitz from the sidelines, which shows that he can do more than just financially supporting IMP with his passionate night with Blitz. This shows the development of his character, and he states that he has feelings for Blitz and wants to get some advice from Asmodeus, which would think be the last person to give dating advices because he's a sin of lust and doesn't deal with artificial BS as he claims. But if you stop and think about it, he would be the best person because he's in love and dating an imp. And that's when the hypocrisy started to show, but it's not as bad as it seems because Ozzy is getting called out of being a hypocrite. I'm usually the type of person who can't stand hypocrisy, but I actually find it okay if they get called out or they admitted it because sometimes it's a good thing. The relationship between Ozzy and Fizz is a good example. Yeah, sure, calling out Blitz and Stolas for having a relationship was pretty shitty when they're in the same situation, but the relationship was meant to be a secret which Ozzy was willing to do anything to protect. But it's not because his reputation is on the line, he's also doing it to protect Fizz. This episode proves that when Fizz got kidnapped and used for ransom, and Ozzy was willing to sign everything over to Crimson without hesitation. So being a hypocrite towards a certain situation seems more like a cover-up to hide the fact that an imp and one of the sins are in a romantic relationship. It's not a bad thing if it's willing to be used as a protection, since that kind of relationship is taboo. But in the end, the secret gets out and Ozzy's starting to accept it and willing to face the consequences if things get worse. It's no wonder some fans find these two the best couple in the show. Not only that they love each other, but they also support each other and don't lack communication. A lot better than our main duos, which we will get later on in this video, and I have words about the hypocrisy of a certain character within certain episodes. Even though it seems rushed, this episode still has some good subplots and a memorable story, so it gets an 8 out of 10. I will say, hypocrisy isn't so bad if it's used for a good cause.
I've won it all. They've screamed my name. They bought the doll.
Well, I have to say, it's been a while since we had a good episode, besides the last one, and having the Sin agreed as the main antagonist of this episode works very well. I never thought I liked an episode where the MC isn't the focus for once. Yeah, sure, Blitz is in it, but he's more of a sided, supportive character when the main focus is on Fizz and Ozzy. Ozzy just being a great boyfriend to Fizz does warm my heart and show how great these two are together. Seeing a character like Fizz struggling to try to keep up the perfect image for Mammon is hard to watch. But in the end, he reached his breaking point and decided to quit after singing a 2-minute song, aka you, to Mammon. I also do like the fact that Ozzy publicly announced his feelings for Fizz, which people already suspect about their relationship. Also, remember what I said in the beginning about being biased towards a certain topic? Well, that topic is the hypocrisy. Yeah, I heard a lot of fans calling Stolas a hypocrite, and yeah, there are facts to that reason to some degree. And Blitz has also been called out for his hypocrisy. Yes, I will admit, I am one of them, but not a lot of people call out on Ozzy and Fizz when they are the biggest hypocrites in the entire show. But after watching this episode and the last episode, I'm starting to see the reason why. I always thought that being hypocritical was a bad thing, but that is not always true, as it can lead to good causes that benefits others for their well-beings. Ozzy is not only admitting his hypocrisy, but he's also showing it. He had this secret about him and Fizz for a long time now, but word started to get out to the point where he announces it himself. You can see the people are happy with this news. They are relieved that their ideas about this relationship has come true. The co-workers at his factory no longer feel threatened by him for keeping his secret. This, I believe, is how hypocrisy is done right. Both showing and admitting it does leave a positive impact. Too bad they could have done that for Stolas, because man, I got words about his hypocrisy, which I will discuss later. Overall, this is by far one of the best episodes. It's well written, it's well paced, and the songs are just memorable. This is the episode that got me to like Fizzaroli even more. 9 out of 10, the best so far. Okay, so before I get into this episode, I want to go over some key facts. Did Stolas call Blitz at the worst time to make this deal? Correct. Did he hear Blitz whispering to him saying it's not a good time, but it doesn't seem to bother him? Correct. Did he hear the gunshot on the other side of the call, but still doesn't care? Correct. Did Stolas flirt with Blitz while trying to do his job and talk sexy to him in front of his daughter? Correct. Did Stolas publicly humiliate him and flirt with Blitz on stage in front of a crowd of people? Correct. Did he ask for a reward after saving him and IMP from dorks instead of doing it out of the kindness of his heart? Correct. When Blitz was having a nervous breakdown of performing, Stolas encouraged him with sexy talk, and did he force him onto the set while Blitz was still a nervous wreck? Correct. So after stating all the facts, it's clear that Stolas was being unfair with Blitz. So, what happens in this episode?
That your first instinct is that it's always about sex.
What the hell did you just say? You full of shit.
Blitz, I think so very highly of you.
Excuse a what now?
I didn't realize you think so low of me.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
Yeah, you guys can guess where I'm going with this. As you can see, Stolas doesn't even apologize for his mistreatment. I know people will say that he's unaware of his actions, that he has no social experience, as such he was isolated his entire life. Those things explains his actions, but they don't excuse them. If you've been around someone for a certain amount of time, you will learn a thing or two from them, like the fact that Stolas doesn't understand boundaries. I would have thought Stolas realized that in the circus episode, but I guess I was wrong. But I do like the fact that he has this plan on giving Blitz the freedom from him if he so choose. But he made 3 major mistakes. 1, he didn't give Blitz a heads up about his plan. He could have texted him and say, hey, don't worry about sex tonight, but I still want you to come over because I have something for you that will help you with your business. Blitz was going around shopping for new sex toys thinking that Stolas was getting bored of him. 2nd, he didn't apologize to Blitz for his mistreatment of sexual harassment and belittling him. And finally, he didn't give Blitz time to process what's going on. He listened while the bird did all the talking, and in the end, Stolas decided to test him out. For Satan's sake, Stolas would have given Blitz a chance to speak, and when he does speak, Stolas keeps interrupting him. It wasn't until after Stolas walked away that Blitz spoke his mind. And another thing, Stolas says he thinks highly of Blitz, but he never act like he does. If there was somebody to admire and have a high expectation for them, I would respect them and not treat them poorly or look down on them. The writer should have changed the dialogue within this scene. He could have said something like, Blitz, I didn't realize I made you feel that way. I'm sorry for all the trouble I caused you. That would have been more wholesome and truthful. But sadly, the writers didn't go for that, but instead they made him into a victim of Blitz's abuse. Yeah, right. Stolas sprung this proposal on him out of the blue without his consent. He did nothing to win Blitz's heart. Yeah, sure, he planned on giving Blitz the crystal, which is one of the nice things he did for him without any bargains. But Blitz never asked for the crystal or anything like that. He was fine with using the grimoire even though it was illegal. He was fine with the monthly sex with Stolas. He was fine for what they had before. But once Stolas realized he has feelings for him, he becomes desperate as he wants to keep Blitz in his life. Like, come on, if Blitz decided to leave, then you should respect that. What happened to giving him a choice? Stolas had a whole song dedicated to this decision, and yet in the end, he's the one that made the choice himself. Stolas was the one that wanted the sex in the first place, and his unawareness of his action makes him an unjustified hypocrite. Now, Blitz's actions aren't justified either. He didn't have to yell at Stolas like that. But he does have the right to be angry with him. Stolas easily dismissed Blitz after getting his answer. He doesn't understand how Blitz felt about this. He didn't have time to process what Stolas was suggesting. I tried to find a way to defend Stolas, but after rewatching every episode, I just can't find a reason. Stolas treated Blitz as a sex toy and has no regrets. Yeah, sure, there is some guilt from him, but not for what's addressed here. I agree with, I'm sorry if I mispronounce this, but I agree with it RTCTB's of Blitz's victim blaming video. Stolas is not the victim in this scenario. He is the abuser, and yet the writers want me to believe that he's innocent. I think it would have been better if Luna didn't bring up the fact to Blitz about Stolas being bored with him, which doesn't make a lot of sense since she's the socially awkward one, having a hard time making friends and can barely talk to her crush. Yet in this episode, she acts like she's done this type of shit all the time, as she claims.
Cause I do that all the time.
Yeah, sure you have. Overall, this episode is a mess, and I think the only entertainment I enjoyed are the fights between IMP and the Cherubs. Yeah, I know they're only there for the runtime of the episode, but honestly I'd rather watch that trash fight between the IMPs and the Angel than the mental drama between Blitz and the Bird. 1 out of 10, let's move on to the next episode. The apology tour that Blitz did was meaningless, but at least he knows that he needs to apologize, unlike Stolas, who has no guilt for what he did. Seriously, I have not seen any shame or guilt to what he did to Blitz. The hypocrisy coming from this owl is so frustrating to watch. Bringing up Striker 2.0 and comparing him to Blitz is selfish. Even Stolas was warned by Blitz that he couldn't make it, and he did send help. So Stolas can at least be thankful for that, and he changed the subject after claiming he never looked down on Blitz. Oh please, I've rewatched the first season and there is plenty of facts and evidence. Also, it bugs me that Stolas was shocked that Blitz never told him about the assassination on Striker the first time during the Harness Moon Festival. I know it's a good reason to react like that, but Stolas should be aware about people trying to kill him. I mean, he was being attacked back at Lululand, and also Blitz saw his demon form twice, so it never crossed his mind to tell him. Blitz believes that Stolas can defend himself and probably doesn't even know about the angelic rope. Stolas doesn't reflect on his own actions. He completely ignores them, and what makes it worse is that he doesn't face the consequences for his previous bad behaviors. But instead of getting punished for his action, he gets praised and comfort by Baraska and all of Blitz's exes, and gets to sing about his broken heart. Oh, boo-hoo. Oh, by the way, I hate this song. I mentioned before that there is one song that Stolas sang that I can't stand. Well, this is it. All to You is a selfish pity song to me, instead of the heartbreaking melody. It's a motherfucker singing about another motherfucker. I know I'm being negative, but that's how I feel about this song. I know the song is supposed to reflect on his feelings and make Blitz look like the bad guy and Stolas as the innocent soul that got his spirit crushed by the motherfucker. I know I'm being biased, but still. I will say that Stolas does deserve an apology from Blitz for yelling at him in the Full Moon episode, even though Blitz had every right to be angry with him. That I will agree on. But he does not deserve to be praised and supportive like this. Oh, Blitzy, how dare you break my heart, even though I was a pervert who desires sexual attention from you, publicly humiliate you and sexually harass you, but how dare you break my heart? Yeah, which one's the motherfucker here now? Also, Veroska and Tex are not helping. After reading the lyrics of this, I have noticed that Stolas did have some doubts about himself. Like the one saying, maybe it's all on me for missing every sign, every glance, every turn. And yeah, that's exactly what he did. And it would have been nice to Stolas to take notes of that if Veroska just backed off. Whenever Stolas gets a hint that he's also might be at fault, Veroska keeps telling him, no, it's not your fault, it's his. Girl, you don't even know what happened, okay? You don't know what Stolas did to Blitz on a daily basis. It's just completely unfair that only one has to apologize when both of them are guilty. Yeah, Blitz isn't innocent either, and he does deserve to face the consequences for his mistake. Blitz has hurt a lot of people by the looks of this party, and feels extremely guilty and even apologizes to Veroska. And personally, I think she's the only one who deserves a proper apology from him. Sure, there are others that deserve it as well, but to be honest, we really don't know any of these people or know what happened. But being at the party and seeing all the pain he caused, making Blitz realize how much of a shitty person he was, and getting a taste of his own medicine. Blitz got his heart broken and is willing to change to become a better person. That's what I like about characters who did terrible things but face reality of their action. Blitz was given Stolas an apology and finally realized his feelings for him, but knows that it's too late to fix it and he just leaves. Now, another thing I want to talk about is the anti-Blitzo party. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. But I think I understand why Veroska did it. She's willing to help others cope with what Blitz did to them. But does it really help? I'm no therapist, but I don't think throwing a party on hating your ex and having people rip stuffed animals of that ex is going to help anyone cope. I mean, look at this guy here. He throws a knife of a cutout of Blitzo with a target on him and he starts crying. Or this woman who's already crying her eyes out and starts drinking. I can see it being a one-time thing, but she throws this party every year, which is unhealthy. It's not going to help people move on. Yeah, sure, it can ease the pain a little bit, but I think the best thing for them is to have them forget about Blitzo and forget about what happened in the past. Besides, they can't all be his exes. For all I know, they could have been hookups or one-night stand. I mean, the guy called Dennis is there. Only thing that him and Blitz did was to make out at a different party, and Blitz said that he didn't like his name, and that's it. Blitz was also drunk off his ass, and was confirmed that he made out with 4 other people. So because of that, Dennis is considered an ex. And I'm going to say it, Stolas is not even an ex. They only had one date together and it wasn't even a real date. Blitz just used Stolas to get into a club to stalk on the M&Ms like the creep that he is. These two were nothing more but sex partners with a transsexual deal. Veroska invited Stolas without knowing the whole story, and if she did, how would she react? And how does she know Stolas and Blitz ended their relationship? And how does she know about the apology tour? Do rumors spread so quickly within the same day that it eventually reaches her? Or was she stalking him? I mean, it could be the latter, but nothing is confirmed about it. So, apology tour gets a 7 out of 10. It has a good and bad moments, and personally, I find it one of Blitz's best episodes as the start of his redemption, and it's still one of my favorites. But I will also state that this episode has Stolas at his worst. It's trying to make me feel sorry for this guy, but it just ain't happening. I do feel a little sad for him in other episodes, but just not this one or Full Moon.
Now what you need, so what you want. You hungry? Take a
Well, it looks like we finally get a Millie episode that everyone's been waiting for, and I will have to say, it didn't disappoint, but then again, it wasn't what I expected. We get to see the backstory of how she met Blitz and how he gave her a better life, which is the reason why she puts up with him. And also, Blitz is going through depression of his breakup with Stolas, and is soaking over among causing his business going bankrupt and stressing out his employees. I know he went through a heartbreak, but it's not worth the cause of his business, which he spent time, money, and holes to build up, and it could be ruined all because of his feelings for Stolas. He can mope all he wants, but he needs to leave his employees and his business out of his personal struggles. He could distract himself from the problem by going on multiple missions. I suggest that's what he does after watching the shorts before this episode came out. That way he can get over the problem and still keep his business running. I'd rather have him working himself to death than losing everything. But that's just my own opinion. And I also want to state the fact that Blitz is partially to blame for his downfall, but what's done is done, and he is facing the consequences. I like the fact that Millie is the voice of reason to show that she has an important role to the MC, and also the fact that this is the first and only episode where they went on a job this season, so it's so refreshing. But Blitz only decided to go on this job because he wanted to f ghosts after watching a show called Ghoststalkers for a whole month and now cosplaying as a character pretending to be someone else. There's also the famous Scooby-Doo reference that never gets old, and Millie putting her foot down telling Blitz that he needs to get over it and needs to focus on the job. I love that she's being brutally honest with him about the situation. Therefore, she's willing to handle the job herself because her boss, who hasn't paid her over a month, spend their pensions on horse crap, and Blitz doesn't show any remorse. It wasn't until after Millie had a talk with him about how she values their friendship. I like how their first meeting was when they're fighting each other while Blitz gives Millie a job offer she can't refuse. It is also stated that most imps that live in Wrath are assassins. Even though Millie was born on a farm, she decided to become an assassin whether it was her own choice or was forced by society. After meeting Blitz, she finds herself a new path, and he gave her more than what she deserves and claims herself as his best friend. I agree with what most people are saying. Millie deserves better. She deserves to have her own episode. I was going to say that Vivian Madrano did a great job with this episode, but then I saw the credits and it was written by Brandon Roger, who is the voice of Blitz, which makes sense because he's one of the major writers along with Vivian. This episode shows more of Blitz's trauma and showcasing the death of his loved ones. We see what happened to his mother, who didn't just die in the fire but was burned alive, which is devastating to watch. Imagine being a young child that started a fire that killed the woman who gave you birth, the parent that gave you love and affection, while the other is a drunken a-hole who abuses you. Now we all know that Blitz has gone through pain and heartaches and made a lot of mistakes, and once he became possessed by the demon investor that was haunted a hotel, he forced Blitz into reliving his mistakes. But luckily Millie was there to save him, and in the end he decided to be himself and not pretend to be someone else. This is not only a great episode for Millie's character, but also for Blitz. He understands he has people that care for him and willing to support him even if his stupidity and bullshit drive them nuts. But he is starting to respect their decisions and boundaries. He said he wasn't going to stalk on the M&Ms anymore or try to be their third, but I can't truly believe his words unless I see it in action or that Moxie mentioned the fact that Blitz is no longer stalking them. Well, we'll have to see what happens in season 3. 7 out of 10. Well done, Brandon Rogers.
Crown, I'd take your place, I'd bow right down, but all I can do.
Now, I have already done a review video for Mastermind and Sinsmith, but after rewatching my own videos, I realized I missed out on a lot of details, and just talking about my likes and dislikes instead of making a good review. Like the master plan of Stella's brother makes no sense. What was the point of framing Blitz for abusing Stolas? What would he gain from that? And also, why does Stolas claim himself to be the mastermind of everything that supposedly went down? Why not tell them the truth about making a deal with Blitz into having sex with him to exchange for the grimoire? Why sing a song about being the mastermind? And not to mention, Stolas insulted Blitz on live TV. Dude, this is a guy you're in love with and you're saying insulting things about him, and I know this isn't the first time he's humiliated Blitz in public. Stolas is not taking responsibility of his own actions. It just seems like he's putting on an heroic act in front of Blitz. Yet he still hasn't apologized for his mistreatment of Blitz or any of the other imps that he insulted in the past. I remember making a 3-part short of why the imps are hating on Stolas even though he sacrificed everything to save one of their kind. One of the things I mentioned in the shorts was that Stolas was subconsciously belittle the people in Wrath, making them feel worthless as their labor means nothing. There's also the general fear and hatred that imps have for royals. I mean, who can blame them? They're tossed like rag dogs, they're used as a stress toy, they got spat on causing them to freeze to death, and the royals don't care, not even Stolas himself. But luckily, he will eventually learn his lesson after he's forced to live among the species that hate him. This episode is not a trial. Nothing is fair game. Satan is the law, and whatever he says goes. When an imp commits a heinous crime, they get the death penalty, but when it's someone from royal status, they get a slap on the wrist. This just shows how unbalanced the hierarchy can be in hell. Blitz claimed that everything he did was to help him and his kind to rise up from society that they were forced into, saying that imps can be more than just servants. Most of them had to live off of farming or assassination, especially in the Wrath Ring. There are some that work in the circus like Blitz's family, and some may have to sell drugs. In other words, imps will always have the shortest sticks, and that includes hellhounds as well. But thanks to Blitz's inspiration in his running business of IMP, there are interns that are willing to work for him as volunteers. Now that would be interesting to watch. Too bad they got sidelined after Blitz and his crew get chased by the Hell Police. And also, a lot of people mentioned this before, why didn't they have a scene of Blitz trying to use the crystal to escape, but it doesn't work for some reason? That issue would have easily been solved by having the Hell Police cancel out its power or something. It would have taken a minute or two of us seeing the show, despite the fact the episode felt like it was already ended as soon as it started. I thought the episode Oops had the fast forward and run with its quick pacing, but I have to give that episode credit for its character growth, while this one just has a trial that's unjustified, a song that is good but meaningless, and we get Satan himself, who is the sin of wrath, and honestly, he's a terrible ruler. He just wants to end this trial as soon as possible because he can't contain his anger without his little therapist hanging around him. I wonder if the trial would have gone smoother if Lucifer was there. Although I don't think he's the best leader either, but at least he can take people into consideration and listen to what they have to say. The other sins aren't much help either. Yeah, sure, B and Ozzy spoke up for Blitz, but they could have done more. Ozzy could have testified for him as he knows about the relationship between Blitz and Stolas. And not to mention Blitz has one of his crystals, so he could at least vouch for that. But nope, these two waste time arguing with Mammon. I will give this episode a 4 out of 10. If Blitz just used that damn crystal and Stolas spoke the truth, none of this would have happened. Just like Mastermind, I have also done a review video for Sinsmas, and everything I say about this episode is still somewhat valid, but there are some details that I have missed out. I'm still glad that Octavia disowned Stolas from her life because, let's face it, he deserves it, and that hasn't changed. Another thing that makes sense is the scene with Blitz not killing the family. I know people are saying it's hypocritical of him, which, yeah, I will agree, but it's not that big of a deal in my opinion. I know I made a big deal with Stolas, but with my explanation on the matter, his hypocrisy just makes him seem like a selfish jerk. Just like with Ozzy and Fizz, the hypocrisy with Blitz in this scene makes sense. Sure, Blitz didn't have to kill the family himself. He could have just let Millie or Luna do it, but decided to leave them alone, at least for the time being. The way I see it, it's supposed to represent the development of his character. Blitz has grown a lot throughout the series and is coming to terms with his own feelings that impacts his growth. And I think that's what people are misunderstanding. Fizz, Asmodeus, and Blitz get called out on their mistakes within the show, while Stolas didn't. It wasn't until he lost everything, including the daughter that he loved so dearly, made him realize all the things he has done wrong and deserved to be punished. I have been waiting forever for this bird to face the consequences of his actions. However, the consequences he faces is only from Octavia, who rightfully abandoned him, but doesn't with Blitz, the one person that Stolas has been fantasizing his sexual desires with and never apologized. Now he ends up living with the guy. It's like Stolas got both punished and rewarded at the same time. But granted, seeing Stolas reflecting on what happened is somewhat justifiable, not for him, but for the audience. Stolas doesn't regret saving Blitz, but also starting to slowly face the harsh reality. And Blitz being there for him was charmful, and I admit I did like their little dance together. It was cute, but I think this hug was impactful, and how the episode ends keeps us in suspense and have people speculate on what's going to happen in the next season. There are still some other things like Millie being pregnant, Luna's wolf form that suddenly came out of nowhere, and watching Stella's brother getting overpowered by a teenager. First, people think Millie being pregnant is going to ruin her character. They say that Millie needs development and she needs more screen time. And after rewatching the entire series, I said to myself, you know what? they got a good point. Just like all the females in the show, Millie has been put to the side for the males to take over when she has a lot more potential. Being the voice of reason and the best friend of the main character is her only role apparently. Millie has gone through all types of challenges in her life. She can almost deal with anything when it comes to assassination. However, raising a child could have been her biggest challenge yet, and honestly, that would have been a good development for her. Now, the whole wolf form with Luna was never explained. As a matter of fact, it was never explained how she can use human transformation spell to disguise herself in the human realm. Although it is cool that she can do that, but this form is only for the merch. I always assumed that she learned this spell from the grimoire, but maybe she always had this ability. I mean, it could be a hellhound ability or something. But whatever, this episode gets a 6 out of 10. Not the best finale, but good enough.
Guys, not to fall for me and sacrifice.
I'm going to claim that Season 2 is a mess. It's just pure fan fiction of our favorite pairing of the show. Stolas is literally the focus of the entire season. But don't get me wrong, I love this ship as much as everyone else, but the story of their romance shouldn't have been the focus. Honestly, it just seemed more of a distraction than anything else, and the development of other characters just seemed rushed and almost pointless. I mean, it could have been a backstory about Fizz and Osmodeus. I'm more interested in how these two met and how and why they fell in love than the story about the bird and the imp. It's almost like the writers are making things up as they go along, therefore nothing really makes any sense. What made the first season good was it seemed like it was already planned out beforehand and it ended it with a good cliffhanger. I know I said this before, but this season would have been a good character development for Stolas. But instead of giving him character growth, they completely changed his persona, making him an innocent owl boy when everyone else around him seemed like the bad guys or misunderstanding his situation. I'm sure you have noticed, but Season 2 ruined this character for me. I never had a problem with Stolas before, but now I'm starting to care less about him. I took him for granted when he got punished by the season finale, but at the same time it feels completely unsatisfied because he finally gets to be with a man he's been craving over since Season 1, because we all know that Blitz has always been his #1 priority. Octavia barely counts as a priority since I've seen Stolas neglecting her whenever she's on screen, and the fact that she's only been in like 3 episodes in the entire series. This season has a lot of problems, but there are some good things about it, like how Blitz met each member of his employees and managed to make amends with the people he'd done wrong, such as Fizz, Veraska, and Stolas. I don't think I have a ranking for the entire series, even though Season 2 has major flaws and can be frustrating to watch. But I don't think it's the worst, but it's not the best either. Since this is only the 2nd season out of the 4, I'm still going to keep watching Helluva Boss out of curiosity. And according to VisiPop, Season 3 will have more focus on family and claim they're going to bring back old characters. So, what do you guys think of this season? Do you agree with me and thinking it's just fanfiction hot mess? Or do you generally like this season? Please let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button and ring the bell. And I'll see y'all next time.